7:04 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale, Tuesday, February 18th. And I'd ask now if everyone will please rise to salute our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Here.
Councilmember Giusti. Costa.
Here.
Tomato.
Here.
Della Ripa.
Here.
Benson. Here. Sotomayor.
Here. Also with us this evening, our municipal clerk, Jay McCarthy, our borough attorney, Tracy Lang, and our borough engineer, Paul Thompson. Thank you, Paul. This is an official meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale on January 4th, 2014. The date, time, and place of this official meeting was faxed and mailed to all local news media posted here at Borough Hall. The first order of business tonight is a presentation on Grafton Road Phase 2 assessment project and overall road reconstruction project. So welcome, everybody. And what we'd like to do is make this as informal as possible and comfortable, and I'll do an overall discussion on what we're doing. Our engineer's here to do the same and answer any questions anyone should have on the project. I'll begin by starting, every year we apply to the Department of Transportation for funding. They usually give us enough funding to pave one road per year. A number of years ago it was Reland Ave. In 2011 it was actually Rafkin Phase 1. Phase 2 was actually applied for in 2012, and in 2013 we applied for Star Lake Road, a full rebuild, and we're waiting to hear if the governor funds that project or any of the projects throughout the state this year. So you've all been copied on what we're looking to do here. We received funding for the resurfacing of Rafkin Road Phase 2. We've applied for Phase 1. We've gone through the process with those residents. We have bid that project, and we're just waiting on weather to actually start Phase 1, which runs from Glen Road towards Martha B. Day to the cul-de-sac. Phase 2 is where you all live, for those who are here from Rafkin, from Union Ave to Glen Road. We received enough money to put towards the paving, curbing, and the sidewalk portion and driveway aprons is always the responsibility of the homeowner. Whether we were doing this project or not, if you needed to replace your sidewalks, it would be done on your dime. If your insurance company made you replace them, again, it's your obligation as the homeowner to handle your sidewalks. So we're presenting to you this project, which, as was stated in what was mailed to you, the total cost is anticipated at $835,000. We received a $250,000 DOT grant. The sidewalk portion, assessment portion to the homeowners would be approximately $205,000 overall amongst all the users, and the borough's obligation would be $380,000. Now, the good news, before I defer to our engineer and open it up to questions, is these numbers are projected to deliberately be on the higher side, because we don't want to be more than this number. Phase 1, we projected the same analysis to the residents, and Phase 1, the project cost actually came in 38% less than what was projected here. And the council's experience in Phase 1 was talking with residents who were in the process of pricing sidewalks out as this project came forward. We're quite pleased by the number compared to a private contractor who are giving the pricing for. How it works is the borough is in essence the banker. The borough bonds the money, we fund the entire project. And over a 20-year period, we assess you, the homeowner, your piece over 20 years, your first quarter tax bill, at the interest rates prevailing, which again could be anywhere from 0.75% to 1.5%, depending on the bond rate when we go to permanent financing. But again, we actually act as the banker and assess you based on your linear footage of your sidewalk. We'll have an assessment committee at the very end, and each person would know their identified costs based on their linear footage. And then there's the question of people's sidewalks who recently have been done or possibly in great condition. Ultimately, that will be an inspection done by our town engineer, and we'll ask for your name and numbers in a moment. Whoever's interested in considering an opt-out because you feel your sidewalks make you eligible to do so. We will inspect that once the snow breaks and the snow thaws, so that could be in July, maybe. Look at your sidewalks and determine if you can actually opt out. So that's kind of it, rushed in a nutshell, and I really want to go to questions, but before I do, I'll defer to Paul and let you present what you'd like to, and we'll go from there.
Well, John, you did everything I was going to say,
I'm
so
sorry.
we'll leave that alone. But Paul Mafalska, I'm the town engineer. Just a little history on this. When we did phase one, there were 70 homeowners along that path, about the same length of road, 0.6 of a mile. And about 25 people of the 70 asked me to come out and visit them and inspect their sidewalks and go over what they wanted to do. Some of them wanted to make their driveway apron wider because it's too skinny for them. There's a cost involved to that. Some of them had just done their sidewalks over, some had pavers. And of the 25 that I visited, I believe about 15 have some situation where they're not going to get replaced at all, or there'll be a very minor replacement. So I make myself available to you any day of the week once the snow melts again. I met people on Saturday mornings, Saturday evenings, during the evening, but it will need to be daylight when we see it. And there are some criteria that I want you to all understand, that if we have differential settlement between the slabs, that's considered a tripping hazard. We need to fix that. Some of the aprons are poorly constructed in that you bottom out your cars, and we have a better design on that, so I would really tell people we're not going to keep that apron because we're going to get it to a more standard engineering standard, because cars have gotten lower since your homes were built, and so you might have some situations where you do bottom out. I've been around the block more than once on a lot of these assessments, and I understand your pain that you don't want to spend this money, but the good thing is it gets done to a DOT standard and specification, so we use a good quality concrete. It's got a full-time inspector that's hired by me and paid by you to watch over the contractor to make sure that it's done properly. There's a 2-year maintenance guarantee on the work itself, and you also have the financial ability to pay for the thing over a 10-year period of time. I had in the mailer given you sample numbers of what we had used as a unit price. We basically took something that had 100 foot of frontage, and not all of you have 100 foot of frontage, but using the $75 a square yard for 4-inch thick concrete and $110 a square yard for 8-inch thick concrete at the aprons, your assessment would be somewhere in the area of $48.67. John had mentioned when we did the phase one project, it came in a lot lower than that, 38% lower than that. So we're expecting better numbers because it is still what I consider an owner's market, meaning that the contractors are still hungry for work, so they will hopefully provide better pricing for us. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have from a technical end of it. If you didn't bring your handout that was sent to you in the mail, we have additional ones here. I have business cards here that has my email and my office numbers, that when the snow does melt, we can call and make appointments to come see you. If you want to just write down home phone numbers right now so that I have it and the best way to contact you, we have all of that also.
If I may, before we do that, we'll finish our program. We'll take a 5-minute recess, and anyone can fill out the form.
Okay, so
take your card.
The last thing I want to say is we're not adding any concrete, we're just replacing exactly what's there. Those are the numbers that we are continuing to do. Unless you want additional concrete work done, and that can be done under this contract also.
I just want to clarify for the record, in my opening remarks, I stated that repayment was 20-year. You mentioned 10-year. I just want to clarify.
It's 10 years.
10 years, correct. I just misspoke there. Just want to clarify. Okay.
So that's really all I have to tell you, unless I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the project itself. We haven't gone to bid yet on phase 2. The council's introducing a bond ordinance tonight that would allow me to advertise. We would be taking bids approximately a month from now, and hopefully in the month of March, we would be here asking for the council's approval to award the contract to the responsible low bidder. And again, our intention is to start this job in April if the snow melts in time, okay? So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have from my end of it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the storm drainage issue on Rafkin.
Sure.
I'm at 1 Rafkin, and myself and 2 houses up have serious drainage issues, and I know those storm drains have been checked and they're cracked. Are they going to be addressed before we go to the expense of pulling up this road and repaving
The
it?
answer is yes.
Yes.
thank God.
Everything we know about that one, which was scoped, it does have a hole in it. Don't know if that's contributing to some of the basement water that people are realizing, but until we fix it, we will just.
For us, it was always surface.
We have a high water
water.
table.
Well, I kind of concentrated on sidewalks, but this job involves handicap ramps at every intersection, crosswalks, replacement of every sign, replacement of every curb, which is at the borough's expense. Storm drains have to be reconstructed, new inlets, new grates put on top of them that are the new standard for the drainage standards put out by the state. Any piping that we have TV that has a problem is going to be replaced. And again, if someone, you're the ones that live there, I don't live there, if you know of problems, I want to know about it, because we have in the past put in under drains where we have water that seeps out in the springtime. I can't see that right now, everything's frozen, you know, so if there are areas that continually ice up, or we will try to solve every problem, because I don't want to come back here. I
Yeah,
don't
for
mean that
us,
the
it's
wrong
not so
way.
much the icing, it's that our yards
But
flood completely.
the intention of the drainage is to keep the Rafkin Road drainage in Rafkin Road, okay? So that will do, that's what it's intended for.
And then to Paul's point on utilities, you know, sewer and water, those will be inspected. And if there's obvious problems there, the borough would have to revisit additional funding if they want to do any massive or partial utility lateral line replacements, etc. So, but to your water point, anything that's broken, we're going to replace. But I know where you live, and it's a low mark. So I mean, there's no guarantee that when that pipe
Well,
is replaced, you're low your basement.
We put a whole bunch of landscaping in to address that issue.
Right, okay.
We dug up our whole front yard, put in French drain systems.
Okay.
So we have helped alleviate it,
Right. It's like a basin there.
but I'm waiting for this spring thaw to
I know.
see what my poor sump pumps are
I
doing.
mean, last year, Paul and I inspected that, and
You know, we'd be happy to accommodate some pumps discharging into the street. We'd rather discharge into the storm drain, and we can do that at the same time. So, you know, it helps the problem with us too. We don't want that water on the gutter line. We really want it in the pipe, you know, so that can be accommodated also.
So ours are pumping out into the back of our yard.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, if you're pumping toward the street, we'd like to know that.
Yeah, no, we don't. Ours are all, they're in the whole drainage system.
right.
Want to do the public first, or?
I had a question. The lower end of Grafton down near Union Ave, there are no sidewalks, I don't believe. Are they putting sidewalks?
On the one side, there are no sidewalks. There will not be sidewalks put in there.
Just curb.
There's a few spots that there are, yeah, curbing will be done, apron will be fixed, but if there are no walks, we're not putting walks in. I'm sorry, someone else had a question?
It actually, you answered it.
Okay.
Paul, on the sidewalk, so like unofficially, so on the corner of Knowles and Radkin, there is, over the years, became like a crosswalk. You know, there are lines there, they put some blacktop in between the, what we call the green stripe, between the curb and sidewalk. If they do that with the project, are they gonna make it like an 88 type of apron?
Yes, they are.
They are, it's gonna be like an official crosswalk?
With the truncated dome, which is a detectable warning device, as they're known in the trade. But you've seen them installed around town, so they're not fun to shovel snow off of, but they're required by code. And you don't pay for those either, they're on your frontage.
Also, if anyone lives, on a corner, all the numbers are based on the Grafton Road frontage.
Right.
So if you live on a corner and wish to extend your sidewalk onto Knowles Road or Glen Road, wherever you may live, that is an option. We recharge accordingly based on that additional linear footage.
And I'm just going to throw one other thing out. In my visits up to phase one, some people actually wanted more concrete done. Some of the walkways that go from the sidewalk along the road up to and I said, we can include that. It's not part of the bid, but it'll just be part of your assessment as you go further on. So actually some people added concrete because it was the right time to do it. So that option's available to you, but again, I'm going to have to visit you and take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
I thought during phase one there was a concern about uniformity. You've mentioned having the option to opt out of this if your sidewalk's in good shape. Is there still a concern about uniformity?
Yes, there is. Okay. I can't do a checker block, if you know what I mean. Take this one, move over a panel, do 2 panels. So we're going to try to keep that uniform. Most of the ones that are being kept were brand new or relatively new. There was a couple of paver sidewalks that were done that we don't need to replace. And where I had a couple panels that were uneven, We did like a section of 20 feet and then kept the rest. So uniformity just means that I don't want a checker block, and so that was what was talked about under phase 1.
So if I know like my whole property is even
Right.
though it's probably the original sidewalk, it's still
I'm going to tell you,
even.
you don't have to replace it.
Okay.
Okay?
And again, with that, I just would ask everyone to, really look at the numbers. Because if you were given that option, you chose not to, but then in 6 years had to, it may have made more sense for you to opt in. So just, really got to think about, that option.
But if you opt out, how does that, with the curbing of the apron, you're probably going to get affected with the apron because of the curbing.
That's correct.
So there's still something that
There might be something on the apron itself, yes.
Unless the apron is.
The apron's in great shape. When we do the curb, we're just going to do a saw cut, probably 6 inches off the back of the curb, and you're not going to pay for that little bit of concrete in there.
All solid sidewalk, we're going to have grass between the curb and the sidewalk?
It's going to go back exactly where it is right now. So most of it does have a grass strip.
Any trees to be removed?
Can we get rid of the grass strip?
Well, there's two sides to that.
I'm
The
more
grass strip I
inclined
know is hard to maintain, but in today's world when we have snow, it's a good spot to put snow because you won't be happy if your sidewalk's
I'm
right
at the
against the
bottom
curb.
of Rafkin, we have nowhere to put snow. Like, we just have, it's just a mound of ice. We can't even get through it. It's just solid ice from the plows.
Now we just have more concrete, so it'd still be there, the space.
I hear you.
If you want to pay for it, I don't have any objection to that. So that's the whole thing.
A lot of witnesses.
Hi. I have a retaining wall on the side that's on Rafkin,
Right.
right? And when I replaced it years ago, the contractor said that you might need to replace your sidewalk when you build it, right? And then he quoted me the price, and I was like, no, just build the wall,
Right.
keep the sidewalk. Now, when they redo the sidewalk, right, like, is that going to affect the retaining wall out there?
No, we'll have them brace it, and we'll have them saw cut it right at the retaining wall. So
Oh,
if they
okay.
built the wall and it wasn't sitting on top of the sidewalk, which I'm praying that it is,
Okay.
then it's not going to be a problem for us.
All right.
So we run across this all the time. But the contractor will be responsible for maintaining the integrity of your wall.
Okay.
There'll be photographs taken, so everyone has a condition before. But again, I personally will be out on this job every morning, and my inspector will be there from A to B, beginning to end.
Also, any trees that may be raising sidewalks currently that will be removed as part of the project on the contractor, by the contractor on the borough portion. It's not yours, because it's responsibility.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Do we know the timing of this? Is that some major thoroughfare for schools?
I'll tell you, last year we said phase 1 would happen in the summer, and phase 1 hasn't begun, so,
We didn't say what year.
yeah.
Yeah, I would, as someone who has to go to Martha B. Day, I would prefer in the
Summer.
summer, some summer.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, the
No,
contractor's going to be allowed to work up one side of the street, work back down,
Okay,
block to
so
block.
we
So
don't have it.
there'll be traffic open at all times, and maybe it'll have a positive that'll slow some people down. So, having spent a little time on the street, they tend to go a little quick.
Is that a consideration, maybe adding speed bumps?
No. Under a DOT project, no. Under the criteria where speed bumps or traffic calming devices are used, this is not a street that's really qualified for it. It's got too many steep areas, and so speed bumps are not the answer. Enforcement is, but not speed bumps.
Make another request for street and week and then Martha B. said, they have a good week there.
Absolutely. Not to change the subject, but whenever I have a captive audience, is everyone signed up for the reverse 911? If you're not, please go to our website and sign up, because we send out, we utilize it a lot for snow emergency issues, for garbage isn't going to be picked up because of the snowstorm during business hours. So, not to change the subject, but if you're not signed up for reverse 911, which has been on the books for 3 years, please do so. Cell phones, home phones, every phone you want to get contact, we utilize it a lot throughout the year.
And the final thing on this, before you put your name on there, grab my business cards, whatever, this is a preliminary assessment. What happens with this process is we put it out to bid, we pay the contractor what it's worth, I end up doing the final measurements myself with my inspector. We certify the costs, and you get to come back here and say, I like my work, I didn't like my work, I'm not sure about that I agree with your measurements, but this is a preliminary assessment, meaning there will be a final one when the job is completed. And that's, your assessment doesn't start and the number doesn't get finalized until that point.
Well, just to give an idea, I know I didn't bring two phase one documents with me, but, you know, like, what was the difference at 38%? So if the person anticipated to pay $3,000, their assessment is actually, did you have any data from the actual
Yeah, I have that somewhere.
number? You know, if anyone, you know, surveys will be done of everyone's property and all that, so all can identify what your anticipated assessment preliminarily will be, if anyone's interested.
I actually have numbers calculated for every property if you want to see me. But for instance, I'll just pick one out of the blue here on my assessment list. Anyone here from 18 Knowles? No? All right. Well, their assessment for everything that we calculated was $4,700. You know, so if you take off 40% of that, it's going to come down considerably. You know, the ones I have 39 raft kind. Okay, the assessment that we figured is $2,700. You'd probably be closer to $2,000 by the time you're done if we get those favorable numbers again.
You know, paid over.
I can't guarantee those. My intention with the numbers that you have on the estimate is to be conservative or high, as the mayor said, just because we don't want any surprises later on.
And again, paid over, correctly in my earlier comments, 10 years. In your first quarter tax bill, it can be prepaid. If you didn't want to spread it over 10, you can prepay it. If you sell your home, the assessment's settled at closing, the new owner is not responsible for you, then you want to settle that part before you move.
But I would like to know if there are drainage problems, tree problems, anything else that you know about the road that I should know about. I really want to know about them. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. I live on 10 Rafkin Road.
Right.
Now, I have no sidewalks in front of my home.
Right.
Now, you just made a statement earlier stating that if there was no sidewalks in the beginning, my water goes down to 1 Rafkin Road. Why am I assessed for $4,800 if I'm not?
You're not, okay? If there are no sidewalks, you're not going to have an assessment. You got a letter because you own property on Rafkin Road. Everyone that owned property on
Yeah,
Rafkin
but
Road.
it's a legal document that says I owe $4,800.
No,
It's just an estimate for everybody got the same.
Everyone got the same letter that legally we had to inform you that if there's going to be assessment, we had to inform you under phase one. I don't want to play lawyer here. I'll let the town attorney. But if you have no sidewalks now, you're not getting sidewalks, you won't have an assessment. Simple.
So that means it's forget about it.
Yes.
Well, just unless you have a driveway apron, then you may have a
No,
small
I have an
assessment.
apron.
Okay.
Now, can I get that in writing?
Can you get that in writing?
Yes.
That's the procedure. You will not, I'm trying to explain, this is a preliminary assessment. You don't get a final assessment until I am done with construction and have measured it. So if you have no sidewalks constructed, you will have no assessment.
So that means I owe nothing.
Correct.
Except for the apron. If your apron's replaced, as that letter stated, which was in a sense, a form letter stating, giving the example, sir, like a property with 100-foot of frontage would pay an estimated amount, just giving an idea. So it broke down apron and walkway. So if you have an apron, the estimated cost is for 20 square yards times $110 square yard. $2,200 would be your total nut on a 20 square
But
yard
again,
apron.
you're more than welcome to have me come out and inspect your apron, and if it's in good shape, then you're in good
You leave
shape.
it alone. But again, so you don't want to leave it here saying it's zero, because if your apron's done, you will possibly owe something.
Okay. We're only replacing what's there. So if you don't have sidewalks, we're not putting sidewalks back. There's a couple of properties up or above where you are that don't have sidewalks, kind of in the intersection area of Knowles.
Yeah, Knowles.
They have slopes and they have retaining walls right almost out to the road. They don't have sidewalks, we're not putting them in.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Any deal on getting the driveway paved along with the sidewalks? I'd rather pay a little bit more. I mean, my
Just
driveway is like
I'll
on the
explain
slope.
my domain. Behind the sidewalks, we're going to saw cut about 1 to 2 foot behind there, and that's the area that we're going to replace. You want to work a deal with somebody, you can. I don't think the contractor that's going to be paving the road is the right guy to be paving your driveway. I don't mean that the wrong way, but it's prevailing wage, it's a different animal, and
normally they don't like to do that.
and I would tell you, don't pave your driveway till we're done, because it's just going to mess up your driveway, and people don't like that. Okay, I have business cards here. I have a sign-up sheet if you want. Please take the time to give me your contact information, and I'll meet you out there and discuss whatever we can about your conditions and assessments and whatever.
Any other questions before we wrap it up? Thank you all for coming. Again, communication is the key, so myself or Paul, just reach out to us anytime. So we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Long time no see. You're still showing up, huh?
Before we open early public comment, we do have 4 non-agenda items. The first item will be, we're asking for a motion to declare past many snowstorms as an emergency, and I'll explain in detail why we need to do that. We also will be authorizing a public hearing for March 4th meeting for the Walter T. Bergen track walking path grant application. The requirement is a public hearing. We will be notifying all residents within 200 feet for that public hearing. The third item, I'd be asking for authorization for our police chief to begin the process to interview and advertise for a full-time dispatcher position. With the retirement coming up May 31st, so we'll get the ball rolling for a June 1 replacement. And at the same time, authorization to advertise and hire a part-timer just in case he hires an existing part-timer to replace the full-timer. Makes sense to everybody? And the fourth item is, although the governing body approved submitting the community development block grant for Ryerson Avenue for the sewer water line replacement for the county, we need a formal resolution, which will be reauthorized. We did it by motion last time, and I just need to get a resolution to send to the county with that application. So, declaring emergency for winter storms, March 4th authorization for public hearing for Walter T. Bergen walking path, authorization to our chief to begin the interview process for dispatch, part-time and full-time replacing. It's not new hires, it's replacing. And a resolution reapproving Ryerson application submission. Those are 4 non-agenda. So with that said, do I have a motion for early public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to an agenda item, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, I have a motion to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone have a report? Jane, you have anything for us? Tracy? Any council member? Liaison committee report?
I wanted to bring up, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, a few of us met with the Board of Education on their upcoming referendum. And there was some talk at that point about them coming here and doing their presentation at our March 4th meeting. I just wanted to check with the council if that was okay before I told them to plan on being here then for the March 4th meeting. Before the March 11th meeting.
Are we doing it early? It's executive session?
No, it's not executive.
Public meeting?
Yeah, it'd just be a public presentation one, I guess like Paul just did.
That's fine. We have a public hearing on Walter T. Bergen. So we have to advertise that for... Is that it? And follow on the morning day? Is that okay?
I mean, it'd probably be like George Hagel and maybe 1 or 2 Board of Ed members going through their PowerPoint. But, I mean, I just want to make sure.
No, let's do that first. So if there is...
Well, I mean, I just want to let them know that they're on the
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, Jane, just we'll do 7:30 on Walter T. Bergen. Because this way, if there's residents here, they can hear the Board of Ed presentation. Okay. Anyone else have anything? Moving along to pending business. Again, to Richard's point, we all received notice of school board special election March 11th. Again, on March 4th, they'll be here for a presentation. Item B, second and final reading for public hearing ordinance 1-2014. Public notice statement, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News. A copy is available to the public, so a motion may be made that it be read by title.
And who makes that motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Bond ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, New Jersey, amending in its entirety bond ordinance number 17-2013, finally adopted May 14, 2013.
Again, this is amending the original Rafting Road Phase 1 to include Phase 2, final adoption, and I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to ordinance 1-2014? Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. And who moves to adopt 1-2014?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Thank you. New business, adoption resolution 2014 2.6, payment of the bills. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers D'Amato.
Yes.
Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes, but I have to recuse myself because my son's the referee, basketball referee, he's getting paid, so I'm just recusing from that.
And Costa.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item B, adoption of tax resolutions. We'll do them all at 2014 2.7 through 2014 2.13. Tax title lien numbers, see on the agenda. And who's making that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Thank you. Item C, adoption resolution 2014 2.14, tax appeal settlement on 148 Old Ridge Road, recommended by council as well as a tax assessor. Who makes that motion?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? Again, just for the record, that assessment was originally a $336,000 assessment, reduced to $320,000. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Item D, adoption resolution 2014 2.15, tax appeal settlement, 13 Clubhouse Road. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Again, just for the record, original assessment $277,100, requested amount settlement $242,700. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sondemire.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato. Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes.
Item E, adoption resolution 2014 2.16, approval of the Burgess proposal. This is a proposal for the quarry Tilcon piece to be studied for redevelopment as a redevelopment area. The motion, I would ask to approve this contract contingent on it entirely being paid by Tilcon out of escrow. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Yasti.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Dela Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
The next item will be introducing by title ordinance 2/2014, preventing obstruction of fire hydrants. Our current code regarding snow removal is quite clear on a 12 hours of daylight after snow has fallen for sidewalks, and we will be extending this to fire hydrants that most municipalities do have to help the fire department in hoping to achieve clearing these obstructions. Our fire department does a diligent job doing so. It is a large burden that should be just on their own, and this gives the borough a little flexibility. Our goal is not to summons anyone, it's just to take accountability if you have a fire hydrant put on your home. So we're introducing this by title, and who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
A question, just look at the history. We did this research, maybe Pete can help me here, a few years back, and we were told we couldn't make this. Can I ask Pete to help me out here?
Sure.
I just don't want to do anything that's...
Attorney reviewed.
Fred did look at it?
He looked at Oakland's ordinance and amended, helped me amend ours, and, don't have any problem. I like to have storm drains too, but that's...
Last time we looked at it, Chief Muldoon was chief, which was 2000 through sometime between 2000 and 2002 term. At that time, the current borough attorney says we could not force people to clear fire hydrants in front of their house, but the only we can do would be to cite them for intentionally piling snow on top
Well,
of it.
that's what this whole under is obstruction.
Okay,
Obstructing the fire.
I haven't read the proposal, but it
You know,
would
again,
be...
it's not our intent to find anyone, it's about accountability. I mean, the fire department ultimately are going to have to continue to check and shovel if they're not done. But I believe when we post things on our Facebook, shovel your fire hydrant, now you have accountability tied. We have a law in the books that says you can't obstruct it. So it just helps through a little more accountability.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So that's good.
Well, appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what we're looking to do. And like I said, joking that like that storm drains running out too. Do that.
Probably know some people have shoveled the storm drains.
Some people have.
When we were out shoveling fire
Absolutely.
hydrants this past weekend, I did notice some people had shoveled storm drains.
Absolutely.
The smart ones anyway.
And out of our 600, 13 are shoveled. 587. Any further discussion? And roll call, please. I'm sorry. Did I have a motion on that?
Yes, oh, you did, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
May,
Second and final, March 4th. 7 p.m.
Council members Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Della Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sandemeyer.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
And that would be an ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale in the County of Passaic and State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 20, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 1, Sidewalks, Section 20-2, removal of grass, weeds, snow, and ice, Section 20-2.1, snow, ice, grass, and weeds to be removed of the Code of the Borough of Bloomingdale to prevent the obstruction of fire hydrants.
Thank you. Item G, adoption resolution 2014-2.17. I'm calling for a resolution to ask our legislatures to make permanent the 2% cap on interest arbitration awards. Back December 21st of 2010, Governor Christie signed into law reforms that binding arbitration awards were capped at 2%. Well, that 2% property that cap on 2% increases in salary expires April 1st of this year. And to date, there hasn't been anything brought up to the legislature to continue or extend this cap. And so we're doing a resolution asking to become a permanent cap. Who makes that motion? So moved. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers D'Amato.
Yes.
Della Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sandemeyer.
Yes.
Yasti.
Jump to that's permanent forever, it's 2%?
Well, right now, it was the law in 2010 that it cannot exceed 2% in binding arbitration. That law goes away April 1st. So the resolution is calling to make that law that it can not exceed 2% a permanent law.
I would almost argue that it should be reviewed every so often, right? Because if the market's moving at a greater pace,
That's
3% or 4%?
You would hope it wouldn't go to binding arbitration. This is binding arbitration, okay, to be permanent cap. So the point is it can't, because if you don't put that language in there, it becomes, another sunset.
So basically, if you don't reach impasse, and you come up with, in any contract, whatever you can really work out, but if it goes from there to arbitration, then the arbitrator's going to say 2% done.
So I guess there's two ways to look at it.
Well, let's put it this way, if the rest of the market is moving faster than that,
That would be a reason not to go to binding arbitration for the collective bargaining unit. if the economy was booming.
Right.
And revenue was galore, and 3.5% raises were the flavor of the month. Why would anyone want to go to binding arbitration if you're capped permanently?
But the law caps it at 2%.
And you exceed it.
Would anyone
Negotiation.
ever allow it to go over?
The goal here is to make our legislator extend this sunset from April 1st.
Extend, I'm fine with, it's the permanent one, I guess is what I was questioning. Should it be permanent or should it be extended for another 4 years or 6 years or whatever, the number of years maybe. I mean, I'm fine with it if you want to put in for permanent. I just have a feeling it's going to get discussed and it's going to be, the same questions are going to come up.
But the problem is, it's permanent because the 2% cap on your tax levy is permanent. So this should tie with that.
I can agree with that, yeah. Yeah, as long as that's, right, the 2% tax levy is there, this should be a, this should be a.
Without, if you read the detail of the resolution, without the 2% cap on interest arbitration awards, but with the 2% cap on property levy, local budget makers could be forced to reduce other essential services to fund an arbitration award. So we want them to match. And the 2% is permanent on your tax levy. So we're asking it to be permanent on your binding arbitration.
Yes.
Costa.
Sorry.
Yes. No problem. Okay, thank you. We had a few non-agenda items. The first one was declaring winter 2014, from January 1st to today, an emergency. Here's why. The government has declared multiple states of emergency on the number of the storms. What that allows the municipality to do is, if the need arises, to take all the expenses related to those storms, including salary and wages, to be outside of cap. Number one. In order to do that, if we need to do that, we need to declare an emergency. And reviewing it with the auditor today, you're better off doing it now. There's been local finance notices stating that you can result these expenses outside cap, but there's to come down another local finance notice very soon, so we'd be acting before this, that states you must declare an emergency now to do so. So number one, it allows you to do so. If the number exceeds, right now we're at about $80,000 in expenses, overtime, salt for the winter. The goal is to fund that inside cap, if the budget allows. By doing this, we have the option to go outside cap if need be. This also gives you the flexibility, which you have to come back to the governing body to take that amount spent as you declared an emergency and finance it as an emergency, which would have to be funded in 2015. It gives you that option. You're not making those decisions today. You're just declaring an emergency. If the governing body, if finance comes back and says, listen, total was not $100,000 in total, not. Let's do an emergency appropriation, fund it next year. It would have to come back to the council if the council so chooses to do so. If we could fund it this year, then we wouldn't do that. Inside or outside cap. There's things to look at next year. You might have more revenue, you might have less salary and wages, making it an easier time to absorb. Those are things we will deal with later once we're more through the budget process. So all we're doing this evening is declaring winter 2014 an emergency to give us this flexibility by motion. We'll do it by resolution 2.18. So who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Again, just to clarify, anything we're going to do with this resolution, outside cap, defer to 15, we'll come back to the governing body. Okay? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Delarosa.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sondemire.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
I need a motion to authorize March 4th, public hearing date for the Walter T. Bergen walking path application to the county. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion?
There's a plan for that? Detailed plan shows it, or?
There was one done some time ago when the council went to Green Acres for funding, and they were unsuccessful in obtaining that funding. There was a plan, and there was a drawing,
Doesn't look for
and there was a cost estimate I have it in my office, if you want to see it. Cost estimate in excess of $450,000. There's no way we would get that kind of funding from the county.
What are they getting for a 75?
The $75,000 is the proposal, which is a macadam 8-foot wide walking path.
Is it like an oval?
No, it goes around the tennis court, around the big baseball field, so it's a little, misshapen. But the $75,000, I think, is more palatable in today's market. I don't think we'll get any sort of, we won't get that kind of funding for a rubber track, although that was my dream track, but the county's not going to fund but 100 tops, and, we're not in the market right now to go finance that ourselves. Doing the 8-foot base, if in 5 years, 10 years, 3 acres had funds available, we can always do a rubber base on top of it. So you're creating your base, you're creating your drainage, you're just doing the cabin for now. That's what we're seeking an application for. So what we're doing is authorizing a public hearing. So any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
I also need someone to make a motion to authorize our police chief to begin the process to seek a replacement of a retired employee by posting and advertising for a full-time dispatcher. And also, if he was to hire within a part-timer, there'll be the need to replace a part-timer. So I'm looking to give the chief authorization to start the process to hire an interview. Obviously, we can come back to us for ultimate hire. A full-time dispatcher, and potentially a part-timer, depending on the full-timer. So makes that motion.
So moved.
Any further discussion? And that'd be effective with June 1 date, so it'll be back in front of us for authorization to hire. Much before that.
Replacing who we have, right?
Yeah, the last meeting we announced Bob Woodier's retirement.
Right.
On the 31st.
So,
That's who we're replacing.
okay.
And if he was to hire an existing part-timer that's on the staff, we'd have to then replace that
But
part-timer.
the chief needs a full-time
Oh.
employee.
We sat with the chief on
Monday.
Monday, and we went through all the review, and her full-time dispatcher isn't just a dispatcher, there's other functions of that a part-timer, really, 2 part-timers in the split,
Right.
really cannot do, it's just other duties. So the justification is there.
And remember, the new hire would be under the new terms of the recently settled white collar contract, and from the high scale to where that new hire be, it's about a $32,000 annual difference in salary and wages for the same group.
All right, so the committee looked at it, I just wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, the committee met yesterday. The chief actually asked for this to be on the agenda March 4th, and I just said, let's get it done, so we can start the process. That's why it's not on the agenda. Okay.
Would he bring in the part-timer sooner than May 31st?
Yeah.
If he hires a guy if he promotes somebody from within?
No, it'll all be June 1. In other words, he would...
Is he going to utilize the guy that's leaving for training at all?
Yes, actually, he did say he would like to.
It all depends on who,
Right.
if he moves a part-timer, say a part-time person applies for it and meets certain qualifications. that
They'll start
part-timer
training
will
now.
start training.
Gotcha.
By the time Woody does leave, ready, up and running.
Yep.
But he didn't give me the indication that he'd have to hire a part-time, which was your question, sooner than June 1st. Revisit that if he requested to be hired sooner for training, but hopefully...
I think it was you.
Yeah.
For the new part-time.
Right.
Depends on who
If
it
he
is.
promotes somebody.
Okay. Are we still in discussion? Is roll call.
Councilmember Sondemire.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes.
And the fourth non-agenda item was I need a motion to adopt resolution 2014 2.19.
Right.
This is authorization seeking the council to authorize the application to use funds from the Passaic County Community Block Development Grant for activities described in the said proposal, which will be the Ryerson Ave sewer and water lines, and who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Just one thing, we applied last year for the city project, we were not funded, largely due to most of the funds in their limited budget going to Sandy-related infrastructure issues. And previously, we were funded, we kind of forego funding because the county is redoing, we just got notice on it will be this spring, storm drain issues that are by the post office. Actually, the storm drain by the post office that was under Main Street, under the, near the dry cleaner, and so on, that's just doesn't function. So they're actually replacing that. And that was actually through our own funding in those county projects, we sort of kind of conceded to the fact to get that done. So this will be, hopefully will be funded this year. I don't think we'll be notified till the summer. So that'd be a 15 bill that we're approved. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Giusti.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Del Rippe.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just, I should have mentioned earlier, you all were copied on a certified ice and snow totals from our DPW. This winter, we were at a total of 54 inches of snow, 0.95 an inch of ice. That is scary stuff.
For those of you keeping track, that's more than Anchorage, Alaska usually gets by this point in time.
That's coming.
It's not over.
Thank you. I need a motion to open late public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak? Please come on up, state your name and address for the record.
Jack Miller, Revap. I've got a couple of questions here about this fire hydrant thing.
Yes.
I know that the firemen are out there doing what they got to do. I understand that.
They will remain.
You're passing an ordinance here with the possibility of somebody not clearing out in front of that. Is that correct? What you said.
It's an ordinance to try to prevent people from obstructing the fire hydrant in front of them.
Okay, so now with the DPW that left 6 feet of roadway covered in front of my house, obstructs the fire hydrant next door to me. Now that person is responsible for cleaning that out, is what we're saying.
One could argue that they were not the ones obstructing that hydrant.
Right.
Okay. Ultimately, the firemen are going to do it.
Can I just,
Yeah.
because I was out doing a thing.
And I saw them there doing what they had to do.
There's a resident on Hillside.
Okay.
Deliberately took a plow in, deliberately. No
Okay.
doubt about it, wasn't a DPW. That's the things we're kind of talking about.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
if the DPW does their plowing, they got to be clean. If a resident cleans it, by all means, thank you. But we're going to still make sure.
Well, listen, I want the hydrant by the house, believe me,
Right.
in case something happens. I do want it there. But what I'm getting at is if somebody, I understand, if that guy does that, then sure, there's a mechanism to do that. But now, the person next door to me, they're trying, and they just keep getting plowed in.
Right.
I just want to make
This
it
is not
sure that it's not going to be,
Right.
yeah,
I'm
okay.
not out to really nail anybody.
This is just-
Well,
This is just to give
Here's a
more.
guy that stands up here every month, there may be one on my door, you know what I mean? And I ain't clean the fire hydrant out, little summons, so I just want to make sure. I want to make sure that it's not coming my way.
Did you say your address for the record?
He's an 18 Revap. All right, thank you.
But again, Jack, it's about accountability. So,
I got you.
To John's point, and when we post on Fireman Facebook, our Facebook website, now we can reference an ordinance. Prior, just give it a little more teeth.
No, I got you. I got you.
20 more done, 20 less that we got to worry about, and you got less than you got to worry about, because we need them.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I went to storm drain.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It wasn't on the agenda, so I'm going to bring something up, and I'll let you guys come back up and speak to it, because I didn't mention it earlier, and it's something I want to discuss amongst the council. We declared the storms an emergency. We funded close to $80,000 to date. What I'd like the council to consider doing is retaining a contractor. I'll say the name. On an emergency basis, I got pricing from Fitzpatrick and Sons. It's for a tandem and a full backhoe, large machine. With the two machines and 2 men, it's $2,700 for the day. And I would like to present to the council to retain them, whether we do one day, we cap it, to work with our DPW to primarily clear storm drains. We have two backhoes. The brakes went on the old one today, so I'm not sure of the status. I'm hoping they'll be back tomorrow. We have the new one. We have the small machine for the utility. So our guys can get out and start doing some storm drains too, but they're really, with our equipment, they're not going to put a dent into it. We have only basic dumps, we don't have tandems. So plus we have roads that need to be widened from an emergency standpoint. Near the schools, we have roads in Iosco and Glenwell where garbage trucks can't get down, which means fire trucks can't get down due to width. I have a list from the PD on intersections that are just, line of sight issues and the like. All that's important as well and as much is the storm drains. We're supposed to get rain and warm on Friday. I don't know if we were to give the authorization tomorrow, go 3 days, not to exceed 15,000 with 2 trucks. I don't know what the governing body's pleasure is to put a dent on these storm drains. Now, one can say, well, it's going to get warm, hopefully we're over. If we get another 6 to 10 inches, which could happen, it's just going to worsen and worsen and worsen. So, I just mentioned it to a few. I didn't want to, do it administratively without talking about it. So. Then I'll let you guys, if anyone wants to speak to it. Yes. We're still in public comment.
Here's my take on this is, we got to start preparing for floods. It's going to happen. It's just in my mindset where we've been before, the lower end of town.
Well, we're going to start with floods.
But we need to make sure our storm drains, at least in the lower end of town, are cleared so that the rain coming, it has somewhere to go now. We don't do anything, it starts flooding streets and icing. April comes, this is really planning for March and April. So I think it's essential we get that part of section down and do it this way. It's going to help. Is it going to solve it? Is it not going to flood? You can't guarantee that, but at least we're doing something preparing for it.
And the only reason I propose is, again, our own staff can then deal with the widening section. The Glenwell sidewalk hasn't been done yet. The county plows, the kids walk with the SRT, there's nothing to walk on. Our DPW's going to do that tomorrow. It's solid ice, and they got to do it with a small machine to try to knock that sidewalk out. We talked about, do you suspend another service? Do you suspend recycling to get our guys? And it makes sense to it, but we don't have the equipment. So I can get 6 guys off of garbage for one day. But what am I having them utilize to do this removal? We don't have the equipment to do the impact of it.
It's big snow.
It's too frozen for our plows. Our plows cannot run curb line and move this stuff. It's not going to happen. This is why we get the bucket orders. So I put it out there.
You look for a motion then?
Well, again, I just want. I don't have to be a formal motion or I want discussion. I want a nod. Because I just don't want, Bill's list, you guys see 10,000 on it for snow removal, not knowing about it,
Do we need a
I think
contract?
that, if I may, I think storm drains and flooding is the priority before widening our roads. I do believe that we need to have a cap on that, on our spending. I think it's great. We have some extra help come in. If it means that they need hands on board also for this removal, then I'm all in favor of suspending whatever we need to suspend, whether it's commingled, whether it's trapped one day, whatever it takes. If they need manpower also, that we put our men on it. Because flooding, as John said, it is going to happen, and that should be our priority.
And again, if you were to do that, you then have to rent equipment. And the cost, you can't rent a tandem, you're going to have to hire an owner with a driver.
That's not what I meant. I'm saying if they need our men, actually manpower, meaning if it also comes down to the guys getting out of the truck and having to shovel or whatever it
takes. I have to get to a storm drain and actually physically clean it out.
Well, that's
what I'm saying. If we need the men, not necessarily the equipment, but if they need the men also, and it means that it's going to take, Fitzpatrick's trucks, his, front end loaders, whatever it takes, and some of our men actually working, then I'm all in favor of doing that.
I mean, to remove the snow, put it in a truck and drive it away, I don't think we need our guys assisting. But to John's point, when the storm drain is cleared, to have our small machine go in and then clean the basement. But even if there's snow in it, still, once the water gets in it, it's going to
Gonna melt.
We don't know, it could be snow, but the snow can be leaking.
This is all things we've got to fix. Well, we did a good job, basically before the snow, with our interlocal with Kinnelon doing a lot of the cleaning. So hopefully the leaves are minimal, although we did have early snow. So again, I don't know if you want to make a formal motion, and you just want to nod, if you want, it's $2,700 for one. My suggestion would be get two, which would be $5,400 daily rate, cap it at 10, 2 days, and see where we are.
And the first, John, the first attack is going to be the storm drain.
Yes.
I mean, I realize that, and I know how important that is, but, there's a twofold thing here, and I think everybody would agree that there's safety issues on these roads.
But our guys, I'll have our machine with our machine operator doing the list I have of, the 8 intersections and, Vogue Drive, hillsides are real narrow, there's issues in that whole area has to be done. Like I know Bailey's pretty wide, you guys, Bailey has some good shape. I know Van Dam's kind of narrow, you've got one guy parked. I mean, there's a lot of things you can.
So you got kind of like
Spend parking, I mean, you go on and on and on.
He's got the worst, the best, and then.
I have a priority list from the PD on what needs to be done. I have to address some of the lakes right away. But again, I'm hoping our guys can do that while the contractor comes in and does storm trees. That's where we are. So before, I'm not going to go on.
Just a couple comments.
Well, you guys have every opportunity. Yes.
I saw you drive around today and check it out. Thank you for doing that. Even this concept of making sure we open up the storm drains before flooding comes. You're thinking about it now before, it's 2 weeks from now, and we're talking about, how do we stop the drain flooding from happening. So thanks for doing that. As far as capping it, use common sense. I thought it would be, if for the next 2 days we can get the flats done, because that's where it floods.
Right.
Let's get the flats done. If 2 days is enough, great. If not, we need to get a third day. This is where now we have to give you the ability to make that decision.
But maybe we'll have a good idea by Friday, because we have the rain coming Friday.
Right.
And it's supposed to be fairly warm the next couple of days.
Right.
We'll have a good idea where we're going to be, if we need to continue, or if it starts melting, then we can maybe use our plows and start moving it, because it's going to be a little bit sore.
And then I'd ask the governing body to allow me to rely on the budget committee, to go to the budget committee, so can I go to the forum?
Right.
And say, should I go more, where are we, what can we
That's why I would put it for 3 days.
I'm sorry?
3 days and see what happens up to 2, and you have that third day fallback on. We don't have to cut some road out again.
You have to.
16, 2, whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
Whatever number.
Now,
And you remember, you gotta, yes, it's a flats, but it's also all the snow on the hills that can come up if you don't do the hills also.
and don't forget, we did, guys, don't forget, we did our mapping.
You can't just forget about that.
Guys, we did mapping, so we have our sewer, water, and now storm totally mapped out. So we can identify where these basins are under these huge piles of snow and hit the ones that are going to take the water. So, if there's one at the top of a hill that's not going to serve a purpose as the one in the middle of the hill, that's the one we're going to do. And so on, the most effective basin.
One more thing, John. Can we put out a reverse 911 asking the residents to help here, get outside and dig out your own?
You can,
right now. Okay, they're not telling them, there's no law, there's no mandate, but let's use common sense.
Those who are going to do it already did. Yeah. Those who are going to do it already did. The reverse 911 is not going to make the person who didn't already do it go out and do it. Plus it's going to be frozen.
Maybe we can just put a reverse 911 that we're doing this, to make sure they're parking. Somebody's parking on the
Post on
street.
Facebook. Rich posted for me on Facebook that our DPW is going to be out.
We have a car parking in the storm drain, you can't do it. So, let's get the word out that we're doing it.
Don't we
have parking ordinance now?
When the roads are covered with snow, you're not supposed to be parked.
Right, they're not really covered with snow, it wasn't covered with snow. I mean, you got 6 feet from the curb.
I'll look at that, yeah, that's reverse 911.
And I would like to say too, I think a lot of people really don't think about the storm drains. They just don't.
That's actually very good.
I think it's not a bad idea to throw it out there and,
You'll get them out there.
I just wanted to make sure there's going to be a contractor. Is there any?
Well, by declaring an emergency.
Okay.
That's part of the reason you declare an emergency too. I'll.
Something for
Pricing it?
My question was, would that money fall under the emergency thing that you're talking
Absolutely.
about?
Any snow removal related expense.
That would fall, okay.
You know, again, it's not just for the reasons we all mentioned, it could snow again. You know, we all hope it's over.
It's gonna snow again.
You know, we all hope it's over, but it could snow again, and we're ahead of the curve. You know, and on that issue, salt, you know, is, you know, at an extreme low point. We're actually mixing with grit. No salting was done today, it was grit combo. We're waiting for 300 tons, you know.
You heard there are some places that are using pickle juice.
Pickle juice,
Beet
yeah.
juices.
Yeah, it's actually,
In Wisconsin, they're using curds.
Actually,
Cheese curds, because there's no salt. I mean, they're just putting whatever they
we
can.
called again today, international, they're like, well, just, you know, you get it when you see it. Did you hear the story? Yeah, I'll give it to Linda the floor. The story where a ship of 40,000 tons couldn't dock because it didn't have an American flag on it, the maritime law.
It's a law.
Actually, there's multiple ships in Maine.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Linda, do you have a question?
With the storm drains, I mean, I have a storm drain in the middle of my sidewalk there. I can't tell you where exactly it is, below a snowbank. And I don't see how you're going to be able to do it because I'm not the only one who has it in the middle of the street. And if you're just going to clear out that little spot, it's going to...
No, you have to do the whole curb line by a
That's
storm.
a lot. I mean, there's, down the street from me is another kind of storm.
Again, there's no way we're going to get every one. But
No, I
let's say
understand.
there's 30 storm drains on Van Dam, and I can get 10 of them. It's going to make a difference. Because the water that now will run along the snowbank I didn't get is eventually going to make it go into the basin. As long as you go in the right direction in the flow.
Yeah, but I mean, I also noticed that my driveway is getting, is all melting and it just...
Sure.
Because there's no place else
No place to go.
seeing my driveway there.
You know, and again, you know, but once we get the bulk done and things calm a little bit, we can get, you know, I can designate one or two of our guys with a small machine going out and poking channels and curb lines, you know, snow lines, you know, just to help that kind of flow. You know, the thought here is just get the bulk of it, so we're not.
It's so hot, so it's ice, it's pure ice.
Yeah, it's pure. That's why you need the Jeep, yeah, our plows will move it. So, all right, so we're still actually in public comment, so before we do anything, does anyone have any other public comment? Yes? You gotta come up, say the address and record. You know the rules.
Linda didn't do it.
That's right.
And then he recognized her, we don't know you.
All right, okay, I'll sign in for Linda, will you?
She's the usual here and there.
I always sit in the back. Bernie Broom, 183 Reeve. Just so everybody's aware, they all just went through the same thing. It's not an uncommon practice to bring in outside contractors when you have snow like we have right now, and this end of the state, to have private contractors come in and assist DPWs. The same thing was done down in South Jersey about 4 years ago when you had the back-to-back blizzards down there and their DPWs couldn't handle it. And they had the same situation where the roads were closing because the plows couldn't push the snow up where it needed to be. So they actually brought in front end loaders and dump trucks, and they were all over Cape May County.
Right. So, well, you guys will be comforted in the fact that when I saw this really cool device, it was like a chipper that like rode down the street, and my eyes lit like a kid on Christmas morning. Finance said, "Go away, John." I know you feel better about that, but it was a really cool. And I actually Googled it to see if you could rent one of those, and they're all North Dakota and go around. But anyway, has anyone seen that? Yeah. Very good. Does anyone else have a public comment? All right, motion to close public. All right, so I'd ask for a motion to retain Fitzpatrick & Sons not to exceed 16 to 3 days of work. Again, that's 2 tandems, 2 bucket loaders, 4 men per day, to see what we can do on alleviating any future flooding problems. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato. Del Rippe.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Basty.
Yes.
Okay, we do have one item of potential litigation in executive session. Work session meeting March 4th. School board election March 12th. 11th, I'm sorry. And there will be no action taken after executive session. motion to go into executive? Rich, second? All in favor? Aye.